Welcome, welcome. This is going to be a part two to the video we literally just did. So when you see these in the queue, they're going to be right next to each other. So we just got done talking about John Alcock. John Alcock is a internationally recognized expert on the Bosnia conflict, and he said, which backed up Douglas McGregor, who also said this, that the rural-urban divide was a big reason for why the Bosnia conflict got so bad. So that was a controversial statement. I hadn't heard that before. The rural-urban division, diverse, educated urban elites looking down on singular, ethnic, low-educated rural populations was a big reason for the Bosnia conflict. I hadn't heard that. I thought that was kind of controversial. In the other video, we showed two people who said that. One, an international recognized expert who spoke at The Hague while prosecuting war crimes on Yugoslavia. But we also found this professor, Robert English, and he is also an expert. He's the Associate Professor of International Studies, Slavic Languages, like Bosnian, and Literature and Environmental Studies at the University of Southern California, Dorn-Seif College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. That's where he teaches. He's a professor English studies of Russia, the former USSR, the Eastern Europe, with a focus on ranging from general issues of regional relations to specific questions of ethnicity, identity, and nationalism. And he's presently working on a book-length study entitled Our Serbian Brethren, History, Myth, and the Politics of Russian National Identity. He formerly worked as a policy analyst for the U.S. Department of Defense and the Committee for National Security. So he's a domestically recognized expert in America on Bosnia and the breakup of Yugoslavia, one of the top experts in America, basically our John Alcock of America. John Alcock's from UK. And I asked him this question, is there a connection between an urban-rural divide in Bosnia and the one that we see here in America? Yes, in a broad sense, there is a similar urban-rural divide in the U.S. as in Bosnia. In fact, there is in many countries and has been for a long time. From the first industrial revolution and the consequential concentration of wealth and commerce in large cities, there emerged divisions and jealousies between town and countryside. It actually predates the Industrial Revolution. In many countries, urban-rural cleavages emerged as far back as the 15th or 16th centuries, and as major seaports grew wealthy with expanded trade. Think Genova, Pisa, and Venice. The concentration of wealth was enormous, and it trickled down from the rich merchants to their managers and warehousemen, to shopkeepers and taverns, and even to thieves and prostitutes. Cities grew rapidly and changed dramatically, and to the poor traditional religious farming communities surrounding them, these new metropolitan monsters seem grossly rich, debauched, and sinful. Cities grew rapidly and changed dramatically, and to the poor, traditional, and religious Trump voters, aka farming communities, rural, surrounding these cities, saw them as monsters who seem rich, debauched, and sinful. So today, what do we see? Conservatives in rural America saying liberals who are found in the cities don't have values. Exact same thing. And regardless of one's view of drinking and carousing instead of praying in the church, even the non-religious couldn't deny that these commercial crossroads were where everything from syphilis to the bubonic plague entered Europe. So that only intensified the animosity with the traditional rural population simultaneously jealous and afraid of the big cities. And he's right. The big cities is where the disease would come. So they thought these people didn't have values, didn't think like them, thought they were gross, and then there is a death aspect to it. These cities just aren't full of bad people who don't think like us. They occasionally bring disease which kills us all. So they're all bad, and they're dangerous. They're, in fact, you could call them a clear and present danger to the nation. That's what these rural people would be saying, that the urban city liberals are a clear and present danger to the nation. Language that rural conservatives use today when talking about liberals. Historians have traced outbreaks of anti-witch hysteria in both Europe and the U.S. to the spread of venereal diseases, and very often the accusers were women, people pointing the fingers at loose city women, at village people pointing the finger at loose city women. In the former Yugoslavia, this urban-rural divide was exacerbated by two other factors. One was corruption and the belief, right or wrong, on the part of the rural farming community that all of the government money and programs went to the cities and they only got crumbs. Okay, well, that's going on now. So he's saying this rural-urban divide in Yugoslavia got so bad because of two additional factors. One was corruption, okay, and the other, the government money and programs went to the cities, and they only got crumbs. So rural America, who voted for Trump, feels they're being left behind, feels the federal government doesn't care about them. Rural Bosnians in Yugoslavia felt they were left behind and the government didn't care about them. That's exactly the same condition. So I didn't realize this, but it's two conditions. One, there was a rural-urban divide with big values and they hated each other. And the urban cities looked down on the rurals. And then on top of that, there was a real belief by the rural people that the cities got all the good programs and money and benefits and they got nothing and were being left behind. Well, that is exactly what people in the rural heartland said as to why they voted for Trump. So actually, there's two factors. This one, people in America believe, and this one. Now, as far as corruption, we just had one party say that the election of 2016 was not real because it was corrupt. And then we had the other party say that the election of 2020 was not real because it was corrupt. Do we have corruption on the level of Bosnia? No. But when we see the entire country say, I don't believe the guy was elected president for half a decade because of corruption, not a good sign. Not a good sign. This last difference between us and Bosnia, we are getting close to. In Bosnia, the belief was that rural folk were mostly Orthodox Serbian Christians, while the city folk were Bosnian Muslims, so that cleavage was there already, and religious frictions simply compounded economic and social ones. Again, this was not something totally new in the past, more in Europe and in the U.S. Anti-city sentiment on the part of rural population had a simultaneous anti-Semitic character. Remember that in most countries, Jews were restricted to certain areas, and they were also forbidden from buying land. They literally could not be farmers. So, of course, they gravitated towards cities and professions such as teacher, accountant, trader, banker. Other professions were close to them, but when the Industrial Revolution occurred and the wealth of cities grew many times over, the hateful stereotype of the greedy Jewish banker emerged, and this, again, was something that had an urban-rural dimension. Fair. So, and he's very familiar with the Bosnian conflict. He didn't say it was the main reason, but it was definitely one. It was one of many exacerbating factors. However, he does say the rural-urban divide was a big reason. It was one of three. The other one was corruption. Maybe we have that at bat. And the other one was that the people in the rural areas who didn't like the city dwellers felt they were being left behind. That's exactly going on in America today. So America's meeting two of the conditions that this expert on Yugoslavia said led to the breakdown of Bosnia. And he backs up the condition by the Colonel and by John Alcock that there was a rural-urban divide where the rural people were one ethnic group and felt that they were uneducated and not getting the benefits, and society was moving on beyond them, and the government liked that. And they felt the cities were diverse and educated and looked down on them. That's literally happening here. And I've just showed you where three experts draw a similarity between us in America and Bosnia at that time. Troubling, to say the least.